I'm not skipping Daniela's party for your stupid family dinner. My girlfriend ditched our anniversary meal with my parents and left me alone. I disappeared for 2 years. Now she is on her knees begging at my door. My name is Andres. I'm 31 years old, and the day my girlfriend Camila looked me in the eyes in the middle of our living room and said, "I'm not going to miss Daniela's birthday party for your stupid family dinner," something inside me broke irreparably. It wasn't just the rejection, it was the way she said it with that tone of annoyance, as if my parents, celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary, were an insignificant inconvenience compared to any old party of her best friend. We had been together for 5 years. 5 years where I had been her unconditional support, her refuge in every crisis. The man who canceled plans to be there when she needed a shoulder to cry on. But that day, when I needed her most for something as simple as accompanying me to celebrate my parents' anniversary, she chose a party with an open bar and music until dawn. The family dinner was important to me. My parents, Roberto and Elena, had never had much money, but they had managed to stay together through 40 years of marriage, raising 3 children with love and sacrifice. They had planned an intimate dinner at their home, just close family. My older brother, Fernando, would come from another city with his wife. My younger sister, Patricia, had organized everything weeks in advance. It was one of those events that means something, where the family comes together to celebrate the love that has stood the test of time. When I told Camila about the dinner 3 weeks before, she had nodded distractedly while checking her phone. There was no objection, no comments. I assumed she would come with me, as she had done on previous occasions. But a week before the event, Daniela, her best friend since high school, announced that she would be having a big birthday party on the same day. And that's where it all started. Camila started making subtle comments. "What a shame Daniela's party is on the same day as your parents' dinner. Daniela will be very disappointed if I don't go. It's her 30th birthday. It's important." I tried to reason with her, to explain that my parents would only celebrate 40 years of marriage once in their lives, that it was a significant moment for me. But every time I tried to talk about it, she would change the subject or downplay the importance of the family event. The day before the dinner, we finally had the conversation that would change everything. I was in the kitchen making coffee when Camila came in and dropped the bombshell. "Andres, I've been thinking. I think it's better if you go to your parents' dinner alone. I'll go to Daniela's party." I stared at her, unable to believe what I had just heard. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious," she replied, crossing her arms with that defensive attitude I knew all too well. "Your parents will understand. They have your whole family there. Daniela only has me as her best friend. She's counting on me. Camila, it's my parents' 40th anniversary. There won't be another one. And it's also Daniela's 30th birthday. It's also important." The conversation escalated quickly. I tried to stay calm, to explain that after 5 years together I expected her to be by my side in important moments for my family. But she wouldn't budge, arguing that I always expected her to sacrifice her plans for mine, that I never thought about what she wanted. "I'm not going to miss Daniela's birthday party for your stupid family dinner," she finally said with that sharp tone that left no room for discussion. "If it's so important to you, go alone. I have my own priorities." I stood there in silence, processing not only her words, but the coldness with which she had said them. I looked at the woman I thought I had known for 5 years, and I realized that maybe I had never really known her, or maybe I had changed, or maybe we had both been pretending to be people we weren't. That night, I slept on the couch, not because she asked me to, but because I couldn't be in the same bed with someone who had just shown me how little I and my family meant to her. I heard her talking on the phone with Daniela, laughing and making plans for the party, as if our fight had meant nothing. The day of the dinner arrived. I woke up early, got my things ready, and dressed in silence. Camila was still asleep. Before I left a note on the kitchen table. "I hope you enjoy the party. I'll see you when you get back." Simple words, no drama, no accusations. I left the apartment we shared, closed the door behind me, and drove to my parents' house with a knot in my stomach and a growing clarity in my mind. The family dinner was beautiful. My parents were radiant, surrounded by their children and grandchildren. My brother Fernando brought special wine he had been saving for the occasion. Patricia had prepared a video with photos of my parents' entire life, from their wedding to the present. There were laughs, tears of joy, sincere hugs, but there were also questions. "Where's Camila?" my mother asked when we sat down at the table. She couldn't come. I replied simply without elaborating. But my mother knows me too well. I saw the concern in her eyes, although she didn't say anything else at that moment. During the dinner, while I was listening to my father give a speech about love, commitment, and the importance of being present in the moments that matter, something crystallized inside me. I discreetly took out my phone and looked at Camila's social media. There she was at Daniela's party in a tight dress I had never seen on her, surrounded by glasses of champagne and neon lights. She was posting stories every half hour, showing what a good time she was having, without a single mention of where she should have been. In one of the photos, Camila was hugging a man I didn't know, both with glasses in hand, smiling at the camera. The caption read, "The best parties are with the best people." I felt something cold run down my spine. It wasn't exactly jealousy. It was deep disappointment, mixed with a clarity I had been avoiding for a long time. After dinner, Patricia found me alone in the backyard of the house. She sat next to me without saying anything for a while, just being present in the way that only siblings know how to do. She didn't come, did she? She finally asked. She preferred to go to a party. Patricia sighed. Andres, I've been wanting to tell you something for a while, but I never found the right moment. Camila doesn't value you, and you deserve someone who is proud to be by your side, especially in moments like these. I know, I admitted, surprising myself with how easily those words came out. I think I've always known. And what are you going to do? I didn't answer immediately. I just stared at the night sky, thinking about all the times I had put Camila's needs before mine, all the times I had given in to arguments to keep the peace, all the signs I had ignored because it was easier than facing the truth. I don't know yet, I said finally, but inside something was already taking shape, a silent decision that would change everything. I went back to the apartment around midnight. Camila hadn't returned yet. The place was empty and silent, full of memories of 5 shared years that suddenly seemed to belong to another life. I sat on the couch and waited, not because I wanted to confront her, but because I needed to see with my own eyes that she didn't care about her decision either. She arrived at 3 in the morning with her makeup smudged and smelling of alcohol. She saw me sitting on the couch and stopped at the door. "Were you waiting up for me?" she asked with a tone between surprise and annoyance. "You're late. It's Saturday night, Andres. I don't have a curfew." She took off her shoes and dropped them on the floor with a thud that echoed in the silence. "How was your dinner?" "Beautiful. My parents asked about you." "That's nice," she said without real interest, walking towards the room. "I'm tired. We'll talk tomorrow," but there was nothing to talk about. At that moment, watching her walk to our room without an apology, without even a hint of remorse for having left me alone at an important event for me, I knew with absolute certainty that our relationship was over. Only she didn't know it yet, and I for the first time in a long time had a plan. Sunday dawned gray and rainy, the perfect weather for the state of my mind. Camila slept until past noon, while I kept myself busy cleaning the apartment and mentally organizing what would come next. It wasn't a desire for revenge that I felt. It was something colder, more calculated. It was the clear understanding that I had wasted 5 years with someone who had never really valued me, and that it was time to regain control of my life. When she finally woke up, Camila came into the kitchen in her pajamas with her hair messy and a hungover face. She poured herself coffee without looking at me and sat at the table checking her phone, probably looking at pictures from last night's party. "We need to talk," I said calmly. "Not now, Andres. I have a headache," she replied without looking up from the phone. "Now," I insisted with a firmness in my voice that surprised even me. Camila finally looked at me with an annoyed expression. "What do you want to talk about?" "About us. About what happened yesterday. About this relationship?" She sighed dramatically. "I knew you were going to make a drama out of this. Look, I'm sorry if you felt lonely at your family dinner, okay? But I already told you that Daniela's party was important to me. You can't expect me to always be available when you want. It's not about availability, Camila. It's about priorities. It's about respect." "Ah, here we go again with the respect thing," she said, rolling her eyes. "It's always the same with you. Everything has to be your way, when you want. And what about what I want? Have you ever thought about that?" I kept calm, although inside I felt a mix of frustration and sadness. "I've supported you in everything for 5 years. When you quit your job because you had problems with your boss, I covered the apartment expenses for 6 months. When your father was sick, I canceled my plans to take you to the hospital every day for 3 weeks. When you needed money for your photography course, I lent it to you without asking you to pay me back. I've never asked you for anything in return, except to be there when I needed you. And now you're throwing it in my face? Camila asked, raising her voice. Everything you did was just to have something to blackmail me with later. That's manipulation, Andres. Her words hit me like a punch. Not because they were true, but because they showed how distorted her perception of our relationship was. To her, my gestures of love and support were transactions that I was now trying to cash in. It was useless to keep arguing. You're right, I said finally, surprising her with my agreement. I shouldn't throw anything I did out of love in your face. It was my choice to help you, and I did it because I loved you. But I can't continue in a relationship where I'm clearly not a priority for you. Camila was silent for a moment, processing my words. Then she laughed, a short, dry laugh. You're leaving me because I didn't go to a family dinner. Seriously, are you that dramatic? I'm not leaving you just for that. I'm leaving you because yesterday you clearly showed me where your priorities are, and I'm not among them, and that's okay. I don't blame you, but I'm not going to keep waiting for you to change either. Fine, she said, standing up from the table abruptly. If that's what you want, perfect. Anyway, I was starting to feel suffocated in this relationship. Maybe it's for the best for both of us. Her ease in accepting the breakup confirmed what I already suspected. She wasn't happy in our relationship either. Maybe she never really had been. Maybe I had been convenient, safe, someone who was there when she needed him, but never someone she truly valued. Fine, I repeated. Then we agree. I think it's best if we each go our own way. Camila nodded, crossing her arms. And what do we do about the apartment? The lease is in my name. I'll stay here. You can take your things whenever you want. Are you kicking me out? She asked, her voice rising in tone again. I'm not saying that this is my apartment, and that if we're over, it's logical for each of us to find our own space. You can take as much time as you need to find another place. I have no problem with you staying a few weeks while you get organized. She looked at me as if she expected me to back down, to beg, to ask for one last chance, but I remained silent, firm in my decision. Finally, she took her phone and left the kitchen without saying anything else. For the next 2 weeks, we lived like strangers under the same roof. Camila spent most of her time out, staying with Daniela or other friends. When she was at the apartment, she would lock herself in the room or stay glued to her phone, avoiding any conversation with me. I took advantage of that time to make plans. First, I called Fernando. My older brother had always been my confidant, the only one who truly understood my situation without judging me. Remember you told me your company had an opening at the Monterey branch? I asked during our phone conversation. Yes, it's still available. Why? Are you interested? Very interested. Do you think you could recommend me? Of course, but Andres, what's going on? This has to do with Camila. I told him everything. The party, the family dinner, the breakup, and my decision to start over in another city. Fernando listened in silence, letting me talk without interrupting. I think you're making the right decision, he said finally. Mom and Dad were worried after the dinner. They knew something wasn't right. Patricia also called me and told me about your conversation. We all want to see you happy, brother. And if starting over in Monterey is what you need, then do it. I support you in everything. Thanks, Fernando. It means a lot to me. Send me your updated resume. I'll talk to my boss tomorrow. The position is for a project engineer. Just your specialty. The salary is better than what you have now, and the company offers temporary housing for the first 3 months. That night I updated my resume and sent it to Fernando. I also started researching Monterey, looking for information about the city, housing options, and everything I would need to know to move. For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of excitement about the future. It was as if I had been living in a fog for years and could finally see clearly. 3 days later, Fernando called me with good news. His company was interested in interviewing me. We scheduled a video call for the following week. I prepared exhaustively, researching the company, its recent projects, and the specific needs of the Monterey branch. The interview lasted almost 2 hours, but in the end, the human resources manager told me the words I needed to hear. Welcome to the team, Andres. When can you start? In a month. I replied without hesitation. A month would give me enough time to finish my current projects, give notice at my job, and organize the move. It would also give me time to completely close the chapter with Camila without leaving any loose ends. That night, when I got to the apartment after work, Camila was in the living room packing some of her things in boxes. She looked at me when I came in with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. There was some sadness there, mixed with pride and maybe a little regret. I found an apartment, she announced. It's small, but it's mine. I'm moving next weekend. I'm glad you found something. I replied sincerely. She nodded, turning her attention back to the boxes. Daniela is helping me with the move. Her boyfriend has a truck. Good. There was a moment of awkward silence. Then Camila spoke again, her voice softer this time. Andres, I want you to know that I didn't mean to hurt you. I know you probably don't believe me, but it's true. I just think we wanted different things. You've always been very family-oriented, very traditional. I need more freedom, more space to be myself. I understand. I said, and it was true. I don't hold any grudges, Camila. I just think we did want different things, and that's okay. It's better to realize it now than to continue in something that doesn't make either of us happy. She seemed relieved by my response. Will we still be friends? I don't know, I replied honestly. Maybe with time, but for now I think we both need space to heal and move on. Camila nodded, accepting my answer. She continued packing her things while I made dinner in the kitchen. It was strange how something that had seemed so devastating a few weeks ago now felt almost natural, as if we had been destined to reach this point from the beginning. The weekend arrived, and with it Camila's move. Daniela showed up early with her boyfriend and his truck. Just as Camila had said, I stayed in my room most of the time, letting them work without interfering. I could hear their voices in the living room, the sound of boxes being moved, doors opening and closing. In the mid-afternoon, Camila knocked on my bedroom door. When I opened it, I found her standing there with the apartment keys in her hand. We're done, she said, handing me the keys. I think that's everything. I took the keys, feeling the weight of what they represented. The definitive end of an era. Take care, Camila. I wish you the best. You too, Andres. For a moment, it seemed like she was going to say something else, but finally she just nodded and turned around. I watched her walk towards the living room where Daniela and her boyfriend were waiting with the last box. I heard the front door close, the sound of the elevator, and then silence. The apartment was empty, except for me. And for the first time in a long time, that silence didn't feel lonely, it felt liberating. Over the next 2 weeks, I focused on closing all pending matters. I resigned from my job with a month's notice, explaining to my boss that I had received a better offer in another city. He understood and even organized a small farewell with the team. I started selling the furniture I wouldn't need in Monterey and packing the essentials. I called my parents to tell them about my decision to move. Are you sure about this, son? My mother asked with evident concern in her voice. Completely sure, Mom. It's a new beginning, a good change. Does it have to do with Camila? Partly yes, but it also has to do with me, with what I need for my own growth. My father, always the pragmatic one, asked about the job details, the salary, the growth opportunities. He seemed satisfied with my answers. At the end of the conversation, he said something that stuck with me. Andres, I know these last few months have been difficult for you, but I want you to know that your mother and I are proud of the way you've handled everything. Making the decision to start over takes courage. Not everyone has it. His words meant more to me than he probably imagined. Throughout my relationship with Camila, I had felt like I was disappointing my parents in some way, especially after she didn't go to their anniversary. Knowing they supported me in this new stage gave me the validation I didn't know I needed. The last day in my city came faster than expected. The apartment was practically empty, with only a few boxes and suitcases ready for the trip. I had sold most of the furniture and donated what I couldn't sell. The space that Camila and I had shared for 3 years was now just white walls and empty floors, waiting for someone else to fill with new memories. Fernando had arranged everything so I could stay temporarily at his house until I found my own place in Monterey. Patricia organized a farewell dinner the night before my departure with my parents and some close friends. It was emotional, but also joyful, full of good wishes and promises to keep in touch. During dinner, my mother took me aside for a moment. Son, I just want you to know that no matter what, you'll always have a home here. If you ever decide to come back, the doors are open. I know, Mom. Thanks. She hugged me tightly, and in that hug, I felt all the love and support my family had always given me. The same love and support I had missed in my relationship with Camila. I realized I had been so focused on making the relationship work that I had neglected the truly important connections in my life. The next morning, with my car packed to the brim, I began the journey to Monterey. It was an 8-hour drive, enough time to reflect on everything that had happened in the last 2 months. I thought about Camila, about the party she had prioritized over me, about how that seemingly small moment had triggered a series of events that led me exactly to where I was now, driving towards a new life in a new city. I didn't feel resentment. In fact, in a way, I was grateful to her. Her decision to choose that party had been the push I needed to realize I deserved something better, someone who valued me, not for what I could do for them, but simply for being who I am. I arrived in Monterey at sunset. Fernando greeted me at his house with a cold beer and a warm smile. His wife, Monica, had prepared the guest room and made me feel welcome from the first moment. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. "Ready for your new life?" Fernando asked as we had dinner. "More than ready," I replied, and I meant it. What I didn't know then was that my decision to disappear from my old life, to start over without looking back, would eventually have consequences I never imagined. But that story was yet to unfold, and at that moment I was just focused on taking the next step forward. The first 6 months in Monterey passed like a whirlwind of new experiences and personal growth. My job at Fernando's company turned out to be exactly what I needed: challenging, rewarding, and demanding enough to keep my mind busy. I was assigned as the leader of a major urban infrastructure project, something that not only boosted my professional career, but also gave me a renewed sense of purpose. I found a small but comfortable apartment in a quiet area of the city. It was different from the place I had shared with Camila, more modern, brighter, and completely mine. Every piece of furniture, every decoration, every decision about how to organize the space was solely mine. I had never experienced that feeling of absolute freedom, and I discovered that I loved it. I also met new people. My colleagues were talented professionals, and several became close friends. One of them, Ricardo, a civil engineer with a great sense of humor, introduced me to a hiking group on weekends. I soon found myself climbing mountains, exploring trails, and discovering a passion for outdoor adventure that I never knew I had. Camila had always preferred shopping malls and bars, and I had adapted my tastes to hers without realizing it. I had deleted all my social media shortly after moving. It wasn't a dramatic or vengeful decision. I simply felt I needed a clean break with my past life. No Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter. It was like living in a bubble, but a bubble that allowed me to focus on building my new life without the constant distraction of seeing what the people from my past were doing. During that time, I kept in regular contact with my family. I spoke with my parents every week, sharing details of my new life and hearing the news from home. Patricia visited me once, impressed by how I had transformed my life in such a short time. Fernando and I had become closer than ever, sharing weekly lunches where we discussed everything from work projects to life philosophy. I never talked about Camila. No one mentioned her either. It was as if that stage of my life had simply been left behind, cleanly closed, with no loose ends. Or so I thought. It was Patricia who finally broke that silence almost a year after my move. She called me one night, and from the tone of her voice, I knew something had happened. "Andres, I need to tell you something, but I want you to know that it doesn't have to affect you. I just thought you should know." "What happened, Patricia?" "It's about Camila. I ran into her a few days ago at the supermarket." My heart sped up slightly, although I wasn't sure what emotion caused that reaction. "And she asked about you. She wanted to know how you were, where you were." I told her you had moved to another city for work, but I didn't give her details. "Andres," she looked different. Different how Patricia paused before answering. "Thinner, tired." She asked me if I had your phone number. I told her yes, but that I didn't think it was appropriate to give it to her without your permission. She became very insistent, almost desperate. She said she needed to talk to you, that it was important. "I don't want to talk to her, Patricia." I figured. That's why I didn't give her your number. "But Andres," there was something in the way she asked about you. I don't know how to explain it. She didn't seem like the confident, carefree Camila we knew. She seemed regretful. "Regret comes too late," I said, feeling a mix of emotions I hadn't expected. "There's nothing to talk about between us anymore." "I understand. I just wanted you to know in case she tries to contact you in some way." After hanging up, I sat in my living room looking out the window at the city lights. I had spent almost a year building a new life, healing wounds I didn't know I had, becoming a better version of myself. The news that Camila was asking about me should have affected me more, but I found that I only felt a slight curiosity mixed with indifference. That stage of my life was closed, and I had no intention of reopening it. The next few months continued without incident. My career continued to grow. I was promoted to project manager with a significant salary increase and more responsibilities. I bought a new car, a sports car I had always wanted, but that Camila had considered impractical. I traveled for the first time alone, visiting beaches and cities I had wanted to see for years. I also started dating someone. Her name was Lucia, an architect I met during a work meeting. She was intelligent, independent, with a contagious laugh and a genuine passion for her work. Our relationship developed naturally, without pressure or expectations. She respected my space, I respected hers, and together we enjoyed the moments we shared without trying to force something bigger than it was. Lucia knew about Camila, of course. I had told her my story one night during dinner, without going into too much detail, but giving her enough context to understand why I had ended up in Monterey. She had listened without judging, simply taking my hand across the table in a gesture of silent support. Past relationships shape us, she had said, but they don't have to define us. You've clearly grown a lot since then, Andres. That's what matters. Her words had been exactly what I needed to hear. Not compassion or pity, just recognition of my growth and acceptance of who I was now. It was about a year and a half after my move when I received another unexpected call, this time from my mother. Son, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me. Of course, Mom. What's wrong? Camila has been calling the house. She has called 3 times in the last week. She says it's urgent that she talks to you, that we please give her your phone number, or at least tell her how to contact you. I felt a pang of annoyance. What did you tell her? The same thing Patricia did, that you moved for work and that we can't give out your information without your permission. But Andres, each call is more insistent than the last. Yesterday, she even cried on the phone. Your father is getting nervous. He says maybe you should at least hear what she has to say. There's nothing she can say that will change the past, Mom. And I'm not interested in reliving it. I understand, son, and we respect your decision. We just wanted you to know that she's trying to contact you quite desperately. If you change your mind, let us know. If not, we'll tell her to stop calling. Thanks, Mom. I'm not going to change my mind. But after hanging up, I couldn't help but wonder what had happened in Camila's life for her to be so desperate to contact me after a year and a half. Human curiosity is a strange thing. Although I had closed that chapter of my life, there was a part of me that wanted to know what had led her to seek me out so insistently. That night, while I was having dinner with Lucia, I told her about Camila's calls. She listened attentively while she ate, without interrupting until I finished talking. And what do you want to do? She finally asked. I don't know. A part of me is curious, but another part, the more sensible part, tells me it doesn't matter, that whatever she wants to tell me, it can't change anything. You're right. Lucia nodded, but I also understand the curiosity. It's natural to want to know. Just be careful not to confuse curiosity with a desire to reconnect. Sometimes, when someone from our past reappears desperate, it's easy to fall into old patterns, especially if that person is in a vulnerable position. Her words were wise and I took them seriously. I have no intention of reconnecting with her. My life is here now with you, with my work, with everything I've built. I'm not going to risk that for someone from the past. I'm glad to hear that. Lucia smiled, taking my hand. But if you decide you need to close that chapter definitively by talking to her once, I'll understand. Just promise me you'll do it for the right reasons. I promise. Over the next few weeks, Camila's calls to my parents' house continued. According to my mother, they became daily. My father, always pragmatic, suggested that maybe I should talk to her just so she would stop bothering the family betrayal. But I stood firm in my decision. I owed Camila nothing, and I certainly didn't owe her a conversation just because she had decided she needed one. Then, one afternoon, while I was working in my office, I received a message from Fernando. Andres, I need to talk to you. It's about Camila. Can you call me when you have a moment? I called him immediately, feeling a mix of irritation and concern. What's up, Fernando? I just got a call from Daniela, Camila's friend. Do you remember her? Of course, the one from the famous birthday party. That's the one. She called me looking for you. She says Camila is desperate to contact you, and that she asked her to call me because she doesn't know what else to do. Apparently, Camila has been trying to find you for months without success. And what did you tell her? I told her I wasn't authorized to give out your information and that if Camila needed to talk to you, she would have to respect the fact that you don't want to communicate with her. Daniela got quite emotional, saying that Camila really needs to talk to you, that it's important. Did she tell you what it's about? No, just that it was personal and urgent. Andres, I'm not saying you should call her, but the situation seems to be escalating. Maybe it's worth considering talking to her once, just to set clear boundaries so she stops chasing you through the whole family. I sighed deeply. Fernando had a point. The situation was getting more complicated than necessary, affecting not only my parents, but now my brother as well. What do you suggest? Give her your email address. Not your phone number, not your address, just a means of communication that you can control. Let her write what she has to say. If it's something genuinely important, you can decide what to do. If it's just drama or attempts at emotional manipulation, simply don't respond and block the address. It was a sensible approach. It would give me control over the situation while satisfying my curiosity about what could be so urgent as to make Camila look for me with such desperation after all this time. Okay, I finally agreed. Give her my email address, but let her know that I'm only willing to read what she has to say, not to have long conversations or to rekindle any kind of relationship. Understood? I'll make it clear. 2 days later, while I was checking my work email during my lunch break, I saw a message in my personal account. The sender was Camila, and the subject simply said, "Please, read me." I stared at the email without opening it for several minutes. Part of me wanted to delete it unread, to maintain the distance I had worked so hard to establish. But another part, the curious and perhaps a little masochistic part, needed to know what was in that message. I finally opened it. Andres, I know I have no right to write to you after all this time. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, and I completely understand, but I need you to read this, please, just once. First, I want to say that I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for being so selfish, so blind, so cruel. The decision to go to Daniela's party instead of accompanying you to your parents' dinner was just the tip of the iceberg of all the times I failed you during our relationship. I didn't see it then, but I see it now with painful clarity. When we broke up, I thought I was freeing myself, that I could finally be myself without the responsibilities of a serious relationship. It was only after you left that I began to realize what I had lost. Not immediately. At first, I enjoyed my freedom. I went out more, spent more time with Daniela, met new people, but over time something began to change. Daniela and I had a fight 6 months ago, a horrible fight that ended our friendship. It turns out that the reason she organized that party on the same day as your parents' dinner was no coincidence. She did it on purpose because she was jealous of our relationship, of me having someone stable while she kept jumping from relationship to relationship. She confessed this to me during a drunken night, laughing as if it were something funny, as if ruining my relationship had been a funny joke. I felt betrayed in a way I had never experienced, and then I began to see all the other times she had manipulated me, all the times she had encouraged me to put her needs before yours. All the times she had sown doubts in my mind about our relationship. It was like waking up from a dream and realizing I had lost the best thing I had by following the advice of someone who never had my best interests at heart. I've been trying to find you for months, Andres. You deleted all your social media. I know. Your family doesn't want to give me your information, which I respect, but I needed to try to contact you at least once to tell you that I'm sorry, that I deeply regret my decisions, and that I hope you're okay wherever you are. I'm not writing this expecting you to forgive me or for us to get back together. I know that ship has sailed long ago. I just needed you to know that I finally understand what I lost, and that if I could turn back time, I would choose differently. I would choose you. I know you're in another city. I know you've probably moved on with your life, and I'm genuinely happy for you. You deserve to be happy, much happier than I made you feel. I just wanted to close this chapter by telling you that I'm sorry and thank you for all the years you loved me when I didn't know how to appreciate it. Take care, Andres. Camila. I read the email 3 times, processing every word, every apology, every explanation. I felt a variety of emotions, surprise at the revelation about Daniela, some satisfaction in knowing that Camila finally understood what she had lost, but above all an absolute clarity that my decision to move on had been the right one. I didn't reply immediately. I saved the email and continued with my day, letting the words settle in my mind. That night, while having dinner with Lucia at her apartment, I showed her the email. She read it in silence, her expression thoughtful. When she finished, she put my phone on the table and looked me straight in the eyes. "How does this make you feel?" she asked. "Honestly, I'm not sure. On the one hand, there's a part of me that feels validated. She finally admits she was wrong, that I was the one who gave everything in that relationship while she took without appreciating. But on the other hand, it doesn't matter as much as I thought it would." "Are you going to answer her?" "I think so, but not for her, for me." To definitively close that chapter, Lucia nodded. "I think that's healthy. Just make sure it's really a closure and not a half-open door." That night, after dropping Lucia off at her house, I sat in front of my computer and wrote a reply. I rewrote it several times, removing any trace of bitterness or cruelty, seeking to be honest but firm. "Camila, I received your email and I appreciate you taking the time to write. I accept your apology, not because it changes the past, but because I recognize that it takes courage to admit one's own mistakes. I'm sorry about what happened with Daniela. The betrayal of a close friend is painful. I know, but I want to be clear about something. Although she may have manipulated the situation, you made the final decisions. It was you who chose the party over my family. It was you who downplayed something important to me. Daniela may have sown the seeds, but you watered them and let them grow. I'm glad to know that you've had time to reflect and that you now understand things differently. Personal growth is important, and I hope these lessons will help you in your future relationships. As for us, you're right. That chapter is closed. I have built a new life in Monterey, a life that makes me happy. I have a job I love, friends I value, and I'm in a relationship with someone who appreciates me for who I am. I don't hold any resentment towards you, but there's also no space in my life to reconnect. I wish you the best on your journey, Camila. I hope you find the peace you're looking for and that you learn to value the important people in your life before you lose them. Take care, Andres." I hit send before I could regret it. It was a clean closure, without cruelty, but without leaving any door open for misunderstandings. I felt as if a weight I didn't know I was carrying was finally lifted from my shoulders. Camila replied 2 days later. Her message was brief. "Thank you for replying, Andres. You're right about everything. I'm glad to know you're happy. That's what you always deserved. I won't bother you anymore. Goodbye." And that was it. There were no more emails, no more attempts to contact me through my family, no more drama. It was the definitive closure we both needed. The following months passed peacefully. My relationship with Lucia grew stronger. We moved into a larger apartment together, sharing the space in a way I had never experienced with Camila. There was mutual respect, open communication, and genuine support for each other's dreams and ambitions. At work, I led the successful completion of the urban infrastructure project. The company was so satisfied with the results that they offered me the position of regional director with a salary I had never imagined earning at my age. It was a huge responsibility, but I felt ready to take it on. Patricia got married that summer, a beautiful wedding where I had the honor of being one of the groomsmen. My whole family traveled to Monterey for the celebration, and it was wonderful to see them get to know my new life, my new city, and especially Lucia. My parents adored her instantly, and my mother told me in private, "This is the one, son. You can tell by the way she looks at you, by the way she talks about you. It's not like before." I didn't need her to tell me. I already knew. It was during the wedding reception while I was dancing with Lucia under the twinkling lights when Fernando came over with a strange expression on his face. "Andres, I need to talk to you for a moment. It's about Camila." My body tensed involuntarily. "What's wrong now?" "I just received a message from an unknown number. It's her. She says she's in Monterey, that she needs to see you urgently, that it's an emergency." I looked at Fernando in disbelief. "Is she stalking me now? I thought we had closed that chapter months ago." "Me too, but the message sounds different, more desperate. She says she's at the hospital." Lucia, who had overheard part of the conversation, squeezed my hand. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know." I ran my hand through my hair, frustrated. Why would she come all the way to Monterey? How did she know where to find me? Fernando showed me his phone. The message said, "Fernando, I know Andres is there for Patricia's wedding. Please, tell him I need to see him. I'm at the San Jose hospital. It's urgent. I wouldn't have come if it wasn't important. Please, the San Jose hospital." I repeated, "That's only 15 minutes from here." "I know," Fernando nodded. "The question is, what are you going to do?" I looked at Lucia, searching her eyes for some sign of which way to go. She simply squeezed my hand and said, "It's your decision, Andres. But if you decide to go, I'm going with you." My mind was working quickly, processing the situation. Camila had traveled hundreds of kilometers to Monterrey. Somehow she had found out about Patricia's wedding, and now she was in a hospital saying it was an emergency. Something wasn't right, or it was an elaborate manipulation, or there was genuinely something serious going on. "If I go," I said finally, looking first at Lucia and then at Fernando. "It's just to make sure there's no real emergency, and then to set definitive boundaries. I can't go on with my life if she's going to show up every time she feels like she needs to talk to me." "I agree," said Lucia. "Let's go. Let's check what's going on, and let's put an end to this once and for all." Fernando nodded. "Do you want me to go with you?" "No. Stay here and enjoy the wedding. This is between Camila and me." "Well, between Camila, me, and Lucia," I added, looking at my girlfriend with gratitude for her support. Half an hour later, Lucia and I were in my car driving to the San Jose hospital. The contrast between the joy of the wedding we had just left and the tension of the current moment was stark. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary. "Are you okay?" Lucia asked gently. "I just want this to be over. I want to be able to move on with my life without my past constantly showing up at unexpected moments." "I understand, and it will. After tonight, we'll set boundaries so clear that there will be no possible confusion." We arrived at the hospital and went to the reception. A nurse told us that Camila was in the emergency room, observation area. As we walked through the white, sterile hallways, I felt a mix of apprehension and determination. This would end tonight, one way or another. We found her in a bed in a corner of the observation room with a partially drawn curtain that provided some privacy. When we entered, she turned her head, and our eyes met for the first time in almost 2 years. The transformation was shocking. Camila had always been a woman who meticulously cared for her appearance, but the person in that hospital bed barely resembled the woman I remembered. She was noticeably thinner, with deep dark circles under her eyes and a pallor that wasn't just from the hospital lighting. She was wearing a hospital gown and had an IV connected to her arm. "Andres," she said, her voice breaking. "You came. You said it was an emergency," I replied, keeping my distance and aware of Lucia's comforting presence beside me. "What's going on, Camila?" She looked at Lucia, clearly surprised that I hadn't come alone, but then turned her attention back to me. "I needed to see you. I needed to tell you something in person, something I couldn't tell you by email or phone. And for that you traveled all the way to Monterrey and got yourself into a hospital." Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't get into the hospital so you would come, Andres. I'm here because I collapsed at the airport. The paramedics brought me. I have a severe infection that I've been ignoring for weeks because all my energy was focused on finding you." Lucia took a step forward. "The doctors know you've been sick for weeks." Camila looked at her, surprised by her direct intervention. "Yes, they're treating me with intravenous antibiotics. I should be fine in a few days. So, it's not really an emergency that required Andres to leave his sister's wedding?" Lucia said, her tone firm but not cruel. "It's a medical situation that the professionals are handling." Camila opened her mouth to reply, but then closed it, seeming to realize that Lucia was right. "You're right," she finally admitted. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have been so dramatic, but when they told me I was in Monterrey and that you would also be here, I thought it was a sign, an opportunity to talk to you face to face." "Camila," I said, my voice tired. "We already talked by email. I made everything clear. That chapter is closed." I know, but there's something I didn't tell you in that email. Something you need to know before I can really let you go." I exchanged a look with Lucia, who nodded slightly, giving me silent permission to hear what Camila had to say. "Okay," I said. "Finally, I'm listening. But after this, Camila, there can be no more. No more calls to my family, no more surprise appearances, no more emails. This has to be the definitive end." She nodded, wiping away tears with the back of her hand. "I promise. After this, you won't hear from me again." She took a deep breath, preparing for whatever she had to say. And I prepared to listen, knowing that after this night, I could finally close this chapter of my life forever. Camila sat up slightly in bed, wincing in pain from the effort. Lucia instinctively took a step forward, but stopped, remembering that this wasn't her situation to handle. I remained where I was, arms crossed, waiting. After we broke up, Camila began, her voice trembling. "I fell into a spiral. I didn't admit it at the time, but losing you was devastating, not just because of you, but because of everything you represented. Stability, security, unconditional love, everything I had taken for granted for 5 years. Camila, you already told me this in your email. I interrupted. If that's all you wanted to say. No, that's not all. Please, let me finish. She took another deep breath. After the fight with Daniela, when I realized how much she had manipulated my life and my decisions, I panicked. I started looking for ways to find you, to apologize, I don't know, maybe win you back. I spent all my savings hiring someone to find you. That's how I found out you were in Monterey. You were investigating me. The indignation in my voice was evident. You hired someone to track me? I know. It was a terrible invasion of your privacy, but I was desperate. And when I found out you were here, that you had a new life, a successful job, I started fantasizing about the idea of moving here too, of starting over near you, of having a chance to show you I had changed. Lucio let out a sound of disbelief. Are you telling me you were planning to move to Monterey to stalk him? Camila looked at her with shame. I don't see it as stalking. I saw it as giving myself another chance. But then I discovered something else through the investigator. She paused, her eyes filling with tears again. I found out you were in a relationship with you, she said, looking directly at Lucia. And that should have been enough to stop you, Lucia said firmly. It should have made you understand that Andres had moved on. It did, admit Camila. But by then I had already quit my job. I had terminated my apartment lease. I had burned bridges thinking I would move here. And then when I realized there was no future for me in your life, Andres, I simply broke down. I stopped eating well. I stopped taking care of myself. I developed this infection and I ignored it because part of me just didn't want to keep fighting. The silence that followed was thick and uncomfortable. Part of me felt compassion for the state Camila was in, but a larger part was deeply disturbed by the extent of her obsession. Camila, I finally said, my voice softer but firm. What you're describing is not love. It's obsession, and it's not healthy for you or anyone around you. I know now. That's why when I collapsed at the airport and the paramedics asked if there was anyone to call, I had no one. Daniela and I don't speak. My family is tired of my dramas. I had no one, except the memory of you, of the man who was always there when I needed him. And then I thought that maybe, just maybe, if I saw you one last time, I could finally let you go. Lucia took my hand, a gesture that didn't go unnoticed by Camila. Andres, Lucia said softly, can I talk to you outside for a moment? I nodded, grateful for the excuse to leave that oppressive room. We left Camila in her bed and went out into the hallway. Lucia waited until we were far enough away before speaking. This is more serious than I thought, she said. She's not looking for closure. She's looking for you to rescue her. I know, and I'm not going to do it. It's not my responsibility anymore, but she's alone in a hospital in a city she doesn't know, with no friends or family. Lucia pointed out, I'm not saying you should get emotionally involved, but there's something humanly basic about making sure she has the medical support she needs. Her compassion, even towards someone who clearly posed a threat to our relationship, was one of the reasons I loved her. What do you suggest? Let's talk to her doctor. Let's make sure she has the proper treatment and that there's a plan for after she's discharged. And then we set clear and definitive boundaries. Maybe even suggest that she seek professional help, therapy, but after that we leave and don't look back. It was a balanced and mature approach. I nodded in agreement. You're right. Let's do it. We found the doctor in charge of Camila, a middle-aged woman with a professional but kind expression. We briefly explained the situation to her. That Camila was alone in the city, that we had come because she had asked to see us, but that we were not responsible for her long-term care. The doctor nodded understandingly. I understand. Mrs. Camila has an infection that is responding well to antibiotics. I should be able to discharge her in 2 or 3 days. I will recommend that she consult with a psychologist before leaving. The circumstances you've described suggest she could benefit from professional support. And after discharge, I asked, does she have a follow-up plan? I will give her prescriptions to continue treatment with oral antibiotics and schedule a follow-up appointment with a doctor in her hometown. But she will need someone to help her get to the airport and make sure she has her medications. Lucia and I exchanged a look. Can we arrange a transportation service? Lucia offered. And make sure she has everything she needs for her trip back. The doctor seemed relieved. That would be very helpful. I'll talk to the hospital's social worker to coordinate the details. When we returned to Camila's room, she was looking out the window with a lost expression. She turned when she heard us enter. We spoke to your doctor, I told her, maintaining a neutral tone. You'll recover well. In a few days, you'll be able to go home. I don't have a home, she said softly. I told you I left my apartment. Then you'll have to find a new one. I said firmly. Camila, you've made a lot of impulsive decisions that led you to this situation. Now you need to start making healthy decisions that will help you get out of it. I don't know if I can do it alone. You don't have to do it completely alone. The doctor will recommend a therapist for you. I also suggest you look for support groups in your city. There are resources available. But Camila, and this is important, I can't be one of those resources. You need to build your life without me in it. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she nodded slowly. You're right. I know, but it's so hard to let you go when you were the only person who really loved me. I wasn't the only one, I corrected her. Your family loves you. You've just pushed them away with your actions. And there will be other people in your life who will love you, but only if you do the work of becoming someone emotionally healthy. Lucia moved a little closer. Camila, I don't know you, and I probably never will. But as a woman who has gone through her own struggles, I want to tell you something. Your worth is not defined by being in a relationship. You have to find your own worth within yourself before you can have a healthy relationship with someone else. Camila looked at her in surprise, clearly not expecting words of wisdom from the woman who had taken my place. Thank you, she whispered finally. We spent another 15 minutes coordinating the practical details. Lucia contacted a medical transport service that could take Camila to the airport when she was discharged. I spoke with the hospital's social worker about mental health resources in Camila's hometown. It was the least we could do without getting emotionally involved in her recovery. When we finally prepared to leave, Camila called out to me one last time. Andres, can I ask you one more thing? Just one thing, and then I promise you'll never contact me again, nor will I try to contact you. I hesitated, but finally nodded. What is it? Can you forgive me? I don't need you to say it now or to change your mind about us. I just need to know that someday, when you think of me, it's not just with resentment or regret. I want to know that you can remember the good times too, and that I wasn't just a bad experience in your life. I looked at this woman who I had once planned to spend my life with, now reduced to such a vulnerable state in a hospital bed, and I felt a complex mix of emotions. There was no romantic love that had died a long time ago, but there was a basic human compassion that prevented me from simply dismissing her as a total mistake. Camila, I said carefully, there were good times. I'm not going to pretend that the 5 years we spent together were completely bad. I learned things about myself in that relationship, both good and bad. And although the way it ended was painful, it eventually led me to a better place in my life. So yes, I can forgive you, but forgiving you doesn't mean forgetting or going back. It simply means letting go of the resentment and hoping that you find your way. She closed her eyes, letting more tears fall. Thank you. That's all I needed to hear. Lucia and I left the hospital together, walking in silence to the parking lot. Only when we were in the car with the doors closed and the engine on. She finally spoke. That was hard to watch. It was, I admitted. But I think it was necessary for both of us. Now she has real closure, not just words in an email. And I have the peace of knowing I did the right thing without being cruel. You're a good man, Andres. A better man than she deserved. And you're an amazing woman for supporting me through this when you could have been jealous or insecure. She smiled, taking my hand. I trust you and I trust us. What she and you had is in the past. What you and I have is the present and the future. We went back to the wedding reception, which was still in full swing. Fernando intercepted us immediately, his face full of concern. What happened? Is everything okay? Everything's fine, I assured him. It was exactly what I thought. A last-ditch attempt to reconnect, but we set clear boundaries. She won't be showing up again. Fernando studied me for a moment. Then he nodded, satisfied. Good, now forget all that and come dance with your girlfriend. Patricia was asking for you. The rest of the night passed in a celebratory haze. I danced with Lucia, laughed with my family, and for the first time in 2 years, I didn't feel a single shadow of my past with Camila darkening my present. I was finally, truly free. 3 months after the hospital encounter, my life had reached a balance I had never experienced before. The incident with Camila had become an anecdote from the past, something I occasionally mentioned in deep conversations, but that no longer carried any significant emotional weight. Lucia and I had decided to get officially engaged. It wasn't an elaborate proposal with a knee on the ground and a fancy restaurant. It was something much more authentic. A Sunday morning having breakfast on our balcony while we watched the sunrise over Monterey, when I just knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. "What do you think about getting married?" I asked her, taking her completely by surprise. She almost spat out her coffee. "Did you just propose to me while I'm eating scrambled eggs? Is this a bad time?" I smiled. "It's a perfect time," she replied with tears in her eyes, but laughing at the same time. And yes, the answer is yes. We didn't have a ring yet. That would come later when we went together to choose it, because she insisted she wanted to be part of that process. It was very typical of our relationship. Shared decisions, honest conversations, mutual respect in everything. My professional career continued to thrive. The infrastructure project I had led won a National Engineering Award, bringing recognition to both me and the company. Fernando was proud, not just as my brother, but as a colleague. We celebrated with a family dinner where my parents toasted my achievements with tears of pride in their eyes. "Look how far you've come, son," my father said that night, his hand on my shoulder, "not just professionally, but in every aspect of your life. You overcame a difficult situation and came out stronger. That's what I'm most proud of." One Saturday afternoon, while Lucia and I were shopping for furniture to redecorate our living room, my phone rang with an unknown number. I usually didn't answer calls from numbers I didn't recognize, but something prompted me to answer this time. Andres. It was a female voice I vaguely recognized, but couldn't immediately place. "Who's speaking?" "It's Laura, Camila's sister. I know you probably don't want to hear from our family, but I thought you should know something." My body tensed. "What happened, Camila?" "She's fine, before you worry. In fact, she's better than she's been in a long time. I wanted to call you to thank you." "Thank me? Why?" "For whatever you said to her in Monterey." When she came back from that trip, something had changed in her. For the first time, she agreed to go to therapy. She's been going regularly for 3 months. She also reconnected with our family. She apologized for many things and is actively working on rebuilding her life. I was silent, processing this information. Lucia looked at me curiously, and I put the phone on speaker so she could hear. That's good to hear, Laura. I'm glad she's getting help." "More than that," Laura continued. "She got a new job, one she really likes. She's taking photography classes again, something she had given up years ago, and 2 weeks ago she started dating someone new, someone who seems genuinely good for her." "I'm very happy," I said sincerely. "Really, Camila deserves to be happy." "She asked me never to call you," Laura admitted. "She made me promise to respect the boundaries you set, but I felt you deserved to know that your decision to confront her, but also to show compassion, really made a difference. You gave her the push she needed to finally change." "Laura, I appreciate you letting me know, but I want to be clear. I did what I did because it was the right thing to do as a human being, not because I expected a specific outcome. I'm glad Camila is well, but my life is here now with Lucia, and that chapter is definitively closed. I understand completely, and Camila understands too. I just wanted you to know that your kindness, even after everything that happened, had a positive impact." "Thank you, Andres. And congratulations on your engagement. I saw the announcement on your sister's social media. Lucia seems wonderful." After hanging up, Lucia hugged me tightly. "How does that make you feel?" "Honestly, relieved. A part of me was worried that our hospital encounter might have made her worse. Knowing that it actually helped her make a positive turn. It's comforting." "You did the right thing," Lucia said. "You were firm, but compassionate. You gave her closure without giving her false hopes. That's hard to do." 2 weeks after that call, I received a package in the mail. There was no return address, just my address. When I opened it, I found a framed photograph and a letter. The photograph was beautiful, a sunset over mountains, captured with professional skill. On the back, in Camila's handwriting, it said "New Horizons. Thanks for helping me find them." See, the letter was brief. "Andres, I know I promised not to contact you anymore, and this will be the last time. I just wanted to send you this as a token of gratitude, not as an attempt to reconnect. Therapy has helped me understand many things about myself, including why I made the decisions I did and how I can be better in the future. I've learned that true love is not possession or dependence, but mutual respect and support. Something you always gave me, but that I never knew how to value until I lost it. I found peace with our past. The good memories now outweigh the bad, and I can smile when I think of the years we spent together instead of just feeling regret. That's thanks to you and your ability to forgive without forgetting, to be firm without being cruel. I wish you all the happiness in the world with Lucia, from what I've heard from your family. Don't worry, just casual conversations. I haven't been stalking them. She's exactly the kind of person you deserve by your side. This is my final farewell. Thank you for everything, Andres, for the happy years, for the difficult lessons, and for the closure I needed. Have a beautiful life, Camila. I showed both the photograph and the letter to Lucia. She read them in silence, then smiled. You know, I think she finally gets it. What? That letting you go was the best way to honor what you once had, and that her personal growth was more important than clinging to the past. I placed the photograph on a shelf in my home office, not as an altar to the past, but as a reminder of the power of forgiveness and growth. It was a symbol that people can change, that painful situations can have healthy resolutions, and that sometimes the most loving act is to let go. The following months were filled with preparations for our wedding. Lucia and I decided to do something intimate. Just close family and dearest friends in an outdoor ceremony in the mountains near Monterey. Nothing ostentatious, nothing exaggerated, just genuine love and celebration. Patricia was Lucia's maid of honor and Fernando was my best man. My parents walked me down the aisle, both with tears in their eyes. It was a moment they had been waiting to see, especially after the difficult years with Camila. During my vows, I looked at Lucia and said words that came straight from my heart. 3 years ago, I thought I knew what love was, but I was wrong. Love is not sacrificing your happiness for someone else. It's not losing your identity in a relationship. True love is growing together, supporting each other, and choosing each other every day, not out of obligation, but because life is simply better together. You taught me that, Lucia, and I promise to choose you every day for the rest of my life. There wasn't a dry eye at the ceremony, including mine. The reception was joyful and full of laughter. During the dance, Fernando gave me a friendly pat on the shoulder. I'm proud of you, little brother. Look at everything you've built. Look at who you've become. I wouldn't have made it without your support, I replied. When you offered me that job 3 years ago, you saved me. You gave me a chance to start over. I just opened the door, Fernando said. You were the one who had the courage to walk through it. That night, as Lucia and I danced our last song before leaving for our honeymoon, I reflected on the incredible journey my life had been over the past 3 years. It had started with a painful betrayal, with feeling unvalued and rejected by someone who supposedly loved me. But that betrayal had freed me to find something much better. I thought of Camila briefly, wishing her well in her new life. Her decision to choose a party over me had been painful at the time, but in hindsight, it was the best gift she could have given me. It forced me to reevaluate my life, my priorities, and what I really deserved in a relationship. What are you thinking about? Lucia asked, her head resting on my shoulder as we swayed to the music. About how grateful I am. I replied honestly, for everything, for you, for my family, for this life we've built together, even for the painful experiences of the past, because they led me exactly where I needed to be. She smiled, kissing me gently. I'm also grateful for your honesty, your kindness, your ability to forgive without being naive. You're exactly the man I want to build a future with. As the music continued and our guests surrounded us with love and good wishes, I knew with absolute certainty that I had found my place in the world. In a geographical location, although Monterey had become my home, but in that moment with that woman, surrounded by people who genuinely valued me. Life has a strange way of working. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead us to the best blessings. Sometimes being rejected by someone who didn't deserve us opens the door to be loved by someone who does. And sometimes disappearing from a life that didn't serve us is exactly what we need to do to appear in the life we were always meant to have. Camila had chosen a party over me, and I had chosen to disappear for 2 years to rebuild myself. When she finally appeared at my door begging for forgiveness, it was too late. But not because I was cruel or vengeful, simply because I had found something better, something real, something worth it. And that, I discovered, was the best form of justice. Not through retaliation or resentment, but by building a life so full and happy that the past simply loses its power over you. At the end of that perfect night, As Lucia and I drove off towards our future together, I didn't look back. There was no need. Everything that mattered was ahead, and what a beautiful future it would be. Have you ever had to choose between holding on to a painful past or having the courage to start over? Have you experienced how a betrayal that seemed devastating at the time ended up being the push you needed to find something better? I would love to read your story in the comments. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot and helps us continue to share these stories of overcoming and personal growth.